Welcome back, everybody. This is Peter with Plumbing Express, here to give you another tip on how to keep your house, the plumbing safe and sound. Make sure that you guys have no problems, hopefully, in the long run. So the thing we're going to talk about today is expansion tanks. That's one of our biggest topics that everybody usually hits us with. It's definitely something that all tank water heater manufacturers and a lot of tankless want to see you install on their product. It's going to help make sure that it gives longevity to your tank. Definitely hit up our other video, and we'll leave a link for you guys to get to it, that talks about installing them. Definitely something that you can try to do yourself. Don't hesitate. Give your local plumber a call. They're happy to come out and take care of it for you. But today we're not talking about installing them. In a sense, we're talking about why is it time to take them out. Not to take them out completely, but change them out. So, there are several different factors that come in there. One of them is mainly going to be these tanks are not made to last the entire time of your actual water heater. So your water heater is going to have a lifespan that from the manufacturer is going to be someplace in that 6 to maybe 12-year range. That's the warranty they're going to give you. I always like to tell everybody they give you that warranty for a reason, because they expect it to last longer than that, but probably you're looking, their expectations maybe a year more on a regular basis. It definitely could go longer than that. We've changed out 30-plus-year-old 6-year water heaters, but with the quality of the water down here in Florida, and so unfortunately, a lot of times the people that are installing them now may not be as well trained as they were in the past. It may not lend itself to lasting as long. But I will tell you for certain, without having an expansion tank on there and as many backflow preventers and those type of systems that we have that close the water in your actual house and lock it in there so that the pressure builds up, expands and contracts and can't push out into the street, it definitely can put a lot of extra strain on the water heater that you have at home if you don't have an expansion tank, or if you don't have an expansion tank that is working correctly. So we're not going to get into setting it up, making sure the pressure's right and stuff like that today, but mainly what we're going to talk about is when is it time to replace those. So one of the first things is you're going to look on there, you want to look for any bits of rust that are starting to show up, whether it be all around the edges of this, but also very specifically an area you want to make sure you're keeping really close track of is visual rust around where this threaded connection is. That is a big one. And these units, or maybe they can be installed straight up and down, they can be installed this way as well. Okay, so both vertically and truthfully, they can actually be installed sideways because they're a pressurized vessel. We don't usually recommend it because unfortunately it does put a lot of weight on this side connection or on the connection they'd have that would be on its side. This usually is the best way, and then also this as well. Okay. Don't get thrown off on the writing on there. There is no set up and down unless the manufacturer does say that. We have not found any of the manufacturers that stress that it has to be one way or the other. It can be vertically this way. It can be vertically this way as well. So you're going to look for visible signs of rust. That's not a good indicator. These are steel tanks, so they are not. They're not going to hold up as well as a glass line tank that you have for your tank water heater. And again, this area right here is a big prime place to keep an eye on. This is where you have a couple different types of metals joining together. This is a weld joint they're putting on here. It's just a great place for it to get where it is starting to rust. It's not a good sign. We did have a customer before that had one of these installed on top of their water heater like this. The rust eventually ate away at that. The pressure that was in here literally caused the tank to fire, shot up through the ceiling in the garage, went through, poked a hole in there, came down another spot further away in the garage. Now that was pretty bad to start with. But what became even worse then is this pipe was now open and it shot up into the ceiling and flooded out that whole area of the garage and actually ran back into the laundry room a little bit and flooded all that out as well. So ideally you want to make certain you're staying on top of these. Do not let the corrosion, the rust get to you and eventually eat away at that. So we have the same thing with this blue one as well. You just want to keep an eye on that. This one really overall looks pretty good on the outside, but I actually had to stuff some paper inside here because the inside is starting to rust away. And if I didn't do that and I turned it upside down, it would have rusty water just pouring out of it. So that's actually gotten to the inside of that tank and it started to eat away at it as well. Now, another thing that you can look at is you have on each one of these tanks, you have a couple different things. One is you will have a manufacturer date. On this one, we have a manufacturer date of 6/10, so you can that's 2010, so this is a very old one here. And then we have this one here that was manufactured in January of 2019. It was installed evidently on February of 2023. We do normally recommend about every 2 years having them inspected and probably having them changed out. They do not have a long life expectancy. They do a lot of work for your water heater, and you definitely don't want to get in a situation where it's rusted through and it's blowing apart. So you got visible rust. The internal rust is going to be hard for you to see, of course. You can sometimes find that you start getting some red rusty water into the hot water that comes out of the actual water heater. That's a good indicator that you've got some internal rust happening on the expansion tank. Then we've got the date that's on there, and then on top of that, one of the other things we can do is this little Schrader valve that's on the bottom looks very much like a bicycle gate or bicycle tire one, and it works the same way. Is if you were to push on this and water comes out, that means that your expansion tank is waterlogged. If the bladder that's inside here, so it's a rubber bladder, think of it being like a balloon inside here, except it's got a consistency more of like a hot water bottle. Once it ruptures, it will allow water to get up into this. If you push this down and you just get a little bit of air, that's a good sign. If on the other hand, you push down on that and water squirts out, that's a sign that this is shot. It's not just that, you know, oh, it needs to be recharged or anything like that. If water's gotten into there, the bladder's ruptured, and it's no longer doing its job. So really, those are the main things that you're going to look at on that. So you want to look for any visible signs of rust. That's your number one thing. That is definitely a call your plumber, get them out there, have them take a look at it. The next would be date. You know, we recommend every 2 years for certain for it to be inspected. Quite honestly, usually the 2-year mark, we are going to be looking at replacing it a lot of times just because there's usually some surface rust that's built up on that. We want to make certain that it's okay and we're not getting into a situation where the customer's having a problem. So you got visual rust. You'd also have the internal rust. If you're starting to see some rust that's showing up, some red staining on your hot water, that would be an indicator you could be getting some rust that's coming out of this and bleeding down into your tank. Then, of course, the last part was, like I showed you, you can spin off that little cap, or it might be off completely. There may be like a little bicycle valve cover on there. You can press in on that. If you get water to come out, that's an indicator your bladder's shot, and it definitely needs to be replaced. So that's, again, not even just can we get it to work? It's just time for it to go. So rust, both internal and external. The date that's on there, and again, we recommend at least getting inspected every 2 years, and then possibly replacing it. And then if you get water to come out of that little Schrader valve, that is another indicator that you've got a problem and it needs to be replaced. So that's really the big ones there. Rust, the date that it's on there, and then check that valve and make certain you don't have water coming out. It should have air coming out of there. So guys, I hope that was beneficial to you. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Please, if it was, like and subscribe to our channel for us. We'd love for you to help us out with both our content as well. So please leave comments if you found it beneficial. If you had questions, please, we look at each one of those. We respond to each of those comments, and also ask some more questions there, because the truth is, we love for you guys to ask questions. It gives us the opportunity to hear from you, and it helps affect what future videos we're going to shoot for you guys to give you guys the information you're looking for. So again, like and subscribe us. We look forward to seeing you on the next one. Again, this is Peter at Plumbing Express.